Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are on week 3 of our 2022 Secrets of a Successful Retirement webinar series. My name is Tara Kendrick, and I'm here with Bill Witt, and who will be running the show today. Today's topic for week 3 is retirement accounts under assault. Plan now. All right. So at Senior Resource Center, how do we help? Well, we do 4 major things, which I'll lump them all together, is we do comprehensive retirement planning, helping people navigate and make sure they've planned out so they don't outlive their money. We also do tax planning to pay less tax. We're not preppers, but we do help people look at ways that they can save taxes in different ways in their estate. We do long-term care planning, which can be anything from federal and state programs to help pay for long-term care, as well as insurance products. And then we do estate planning, looking at making sure you have your legal documents in order and finding ways to avoid probate. All right, so this is the third week of our webinar series, and we have actually 15 different topics we're going to be doing this year. And so, as always, you can take a look at the choices we have up here, but you can go on our website under webinars and you can click on one of them and register. We usually put about 3 or 4 registration of the most recent ones that are coming available, and then the other ones just put on your calendar. So let's see. Yep. So here's the last half. So yeah, if you ever miss any of these, we will always have them posted about 24 hours after the webinar series has been completed. You can look under our resources tab on our website and you'll be able to watch the webinar again. All right, without further ado, I'll introduce Bill Witt.
Thanks, Tara. Hey, good morning, everybody, and thank you again for joining us. I think this is an important topic, and I think you're going to like what we cover today. We start each one with a disclaimer because there's some things, obviously, we're going to talk some case studies today, and everyone's situation is truly unique. So the actual results from examples and case studies will vary based on what's going on in today's markets. Also, we're going to touch on some topics today that deal with stocks and bonds and securities. Tara and I are not securities licensed. So what we're going to share today is our opinions, but you want to refer all stock and bond security questions to a licensed securities professional. So with that, what's the problem? Well, first, let's talk about when we enter retirement, most of the families that come and visit us tell us they have 2 major assets. One is their home, and if you live in the Austin area, you know that home prices have been skyrocketing, just going up tremendously, which is a great investment. And the second major asset most people have is their retirement accounts. They leave employment, they retire, and what do they have? They have an IRA or a 401k when they leave, and these 2 assets have to get us home. So really the summary of this whole focus is we want to maximize the value of your retirement accounts because this is the money that gets us home, and it's the foundation for a safe and secure retirement. We want to make sure, as Tara said, we don't live longer than our money. So today's retirement accounts face a number of critical challenges, and the first 2 of these are something we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about market corrections. It's never any fun when the stock market takes a nosedive. And if you've been monitoring because of the politics in the world, because of inflation, because of the threat that the Fed is going to raise interest rates, there's a lot of volatility in the markets right now. The Dow is down considerably from its highs, and with all the political drama that's going on, it's hard to know how that's going to impact our economy and stock markets going forward. So obviously our retirement accounts are affected by market corrections. We're going to talk today about management fees and show you how over a period of time they can also erode significantly the value of what you've got in your retirement accounts. Inflation is something we haven't had to talk about for probably 20 or 30 years, maybe 40 years, going well back into the late 70s, where there was a high round of inflation. But if you go to the food store today, as I did a month ago or a month and a half ago, and reached for a pound of bacon and saw the price was over $9 for a package of bacon, prices are going up. We are dealing with inflation, and it's a real factor. It erodes our buying power. The last two areas are maybe kind of more sinister. Government tax policies are changing. And I want to touch very briefly on two acts, the Secure Act and the more recent Build Back Better Act, and show you how the government is kind of changing its story about retirement plans. If you go back to the 1970s, 60s, most people retired with Social Security and a pension. And around the end of the 70s, companies that were offering pensions started to become very cautious that people are living longer. Their pension funds were underfunded, and that's when we saw the evolution, the creation of 401k plans, where previously, you retired, you had a pension, your employer was on the hook to pay that pension until you passed away. Well, today people have their 401ks. When they leave employment, they walk away with a bucket of money, and it's up to the employee, not the employer, to make sure that that money lasts and supports retirement. So go back to the 70s, the government's promoting 401ks, IRAs. These are wonderful ways to prepare for retirement. But I want to show you now how things have kind of changed. We look back a couple of years ago, President Trump signed what was known as the Secure Act. This act didn't get a lot of publicity because it was actually signed during one of the impeachment inquiries, and it had six major provisions. Most of them were attractive, were good, like delaying required distributions. We're going to talk about a smart way to do that today, delaying them from 71 and a half out to age 72. So you could leave your money cook and grow. This act allows you to contribute to IRAs past age 70 and a half. That was a good one. 401ks are now available for part-time employees. That's a good thing. Small businesses receive a tax credit if they set up a 401k. So that's a good thing. It incentivizes not just big employers, but small ones to offer 401ks. And finally, the last good point was the government saw fit that people kind of like having lifetime income, having pensions. And so now annuities and lifetime income are folded into 401ks so that they're offered as an option. But the last point was a very negative impact. This act eliminated what was known as lifetime stretch. Where does this fit in? Well, let's say I die and I leave my IRA to my son or daughter. Well, previously, they had the ability to do what was known as a lifetime stretch. If they didn't need the money to live on, if they were self-sufficient, they could actually let the money continue to compound and grow and cook over their lifetime. And oftentimes, when you inherit an IRA, it could become part of your own retirement plan. Now, these people inheriting had to take small required distributions, but for the most part, they could let the money compound and grow over their lifetime. Well, this act eliminated the lifetime stretch. Now your kids are forced to surrender or take out all the funds within the 10-year period after your death. Why is this a problem? Let's say I'm 75 or 80 when I pass away, and my son or daughter is in their 50s or early 60s. They could be in their peak earning years. And now they're forced by government rule to take money out of IRAs that they don't want to be tapping. That was very unpleasant. Bottom line is the only beneficiary is really Uncle Sam. He's now getting more of tax dollars through early withdrawals from IRAs that are inherited. The second act I want to touch on is called Build Back Better, and this is the one that has not passed Congress yet. President Biden is pushing it. It has a variety of provisions in it, but there's something interesting you need to know about governmental acts. When a senator or congressman proposes an act, they write up a set of notes that go with that act. And they actually explain the purpose of the act, but they also explain how they want to fund it. because today we're worried about government deficits. So the act that President Biden proposed, or that Congress proposed, Build Back Better, had two major funding provisions. And these may shock you because they did shock me. The first one is to establish a maximum retirement account value. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, before the government said, hey, invest in your 401k, your IRA, create enough money to support your lifestyle. Now they're coming back saying, well, maybe some people have made too many contributions. We want to put a limit on it. And so they're going to establish a maximum account value. Second, they're going to force 50% annual distribution of the excess amount above that maximum value. Now, today, this wouldn't affect many people because the limit they were talking about establishing is very substantial. But let me tell you why it worries me. If you go back, anytime this government or our country creates a new tax paradigm or a new way of taxing the citizenry, you have to look at where it may lead. And I want to use income tax as an example. The first major income tax was actually back during the Civil War, but then it went away. And income tax didn't occur again until 1913. That's when it was put in place with very, very low tax rates. Most people paid 1%, 2%, 3%. The highest rate was actually 7%. And it was so high, income wise, nobody paid it. So the vast majority of people, when they were paying income tax, started out by paying only 1 or 2% of their total income. Who cares, right? But what has happened since? Once the model is approved, it's much easier for Congress to go in and say, let's crank the numbers up. And so just like today, the highest tax rate is what, 35, 37%? Most of us pay 10, 12, maybe 22%, 24. Those are much bigger numbers than 1, 2, or 3. My fear is if they get this new model in place and say, hey, there's an account value limit, a maximum. Well, it's pretty easy for them to go in once the model is established and go, that maximum's a little bit high. Let's drop it down. And I think over the next 10, 15, 20 years, as our country struggles to find tax revenue to support Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all the social programs, plus governmental defense, they're going to look for ways to get more tax dollars. And I don't see them raising the maximum account value. I see them dropping it to eventually where all of us may be affected by this. So, in a nutshell, our retirement plans are under assault, and it's our job to maximize them. It's our job to try to get the maximum value out. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Earlier, I said, if you go back into the history of retirement planning in this country, really things have changed markedly in the last 40 or 50 years. You go back to the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and what did people have when they retired? They had a pension. Most employers offered a pension for employees that worked with them for a number of years. And that pension provided a lifetime stream of income as long as the employee was alive. In addition, we had what? Tax-free Social Security. So we had two forms of income that made retiring in the 50s, 60s, or 70s pretty nice. Life was good. But starting in 1983, President Reagan put in taxation on our Social Security, allowing up to 50% of the benefit to be taxable. President Clinton increased that to 90 or 85%. And so today, the tax-free income dream that President Roosevelt gave us, it's long gone. And employers responded. We had pensions, and then they realized the liability by people living longer. So they cut the pensions and replaced it with 401k plans. So let's look at these two side by side. If you're on a pension and you live short and die, who won? The employer. Didn't have to make any more payments. The employer got to keep what you and they had contributed to the fund. If you lived long, you would win. So it was kind of a win-lose. You had to live long to win the battle when it came to pensions. When you introduce 401ks, the risk now falls on the employee. If you die, you live short, your heirs win. They would inherit the money. It didn't stay with the employer. That was a nice win. But with us living longer, with longevity, And if you read my book, you know that today, if you're 65, a woman, your life expectancy on average is 20 years. If you're a man, it's 18 years. That means if you're 65 today and in reasonably good health, you're going to live into your 80s. And if you keep, your health self in good shape, watch your blood pressure, watch your weight, there's a good chance you'll live into your late 80s, 90s, or even into 100. So the risk is, what if the 401k runs out of money before we run out of time? So we're going to talk now about two ways to improve the value of your retirement accounts. And these are very simple. I'm going to go through these, but Tara and I deal with this every day. And it's a two-step process, actually. We're looking for safe asset growth. We want the money to grow, but we don't like, market corrections. And we're going to talk about a smarter way to do those required minimum distributions, where the government at age 72 starts to force us to take money out. So let's do our race. We're going to have the hare versus the tortoise. And if everybody remembers that, Tara and I are tortoise investors. So I'm going to show you a way to safely grow your assets. And there's two principles behind tortoise investing. First, and very important, we want to eliminate management fees. You may not think you're paying much, but I'm going to show you that over a period of time, you may be paying a lot more in management fees than you may realize. And the second is we want to avoid market corrections, because this is what takes away from our lifestyle. So let's first define what I mean by the market. Every night we turn on the evening news and they go, the Dow Jones, the Dow is up or down so many points. The Dow is a reflection, it's 30 large companies. The other major index you've probably heard about is the S&P, Standard & Poor's 500. This is 500 large companies in the United States. For our purpose, Tara and I use the S&P. It's a broader, most economists think the S&P is a broader index of our overall economy. If the S&P is going up, well, the economy's going up. And so it's a good index. And so that's what we measure our performance against. So here's a 20-year snapshot on the S&P index. Now, this is with no fees. This is money just riding in the market, going up and down with the S&P. And you remember there were some bad years around 2000, 2001, 2, and then there was another correction around 2008. Over the last 10, 12 years, we've seen a good upsurge in the market. So this is the index that we compare our performance to. And so let's first talk about how to improve those returns. And what I want to point out, fees reduce your return. Some of the fees that you and I pay, if we're in the market and having our money managed, some are visible, but some of them aren't visible. Some of them are what I call hidden fees. So what are the visible fees? If you have a financial advisor, a stockbroker, they usually charge a fee based on the money they have under management. And that fee can vary anywhere from a fraction of a percent to more than 2%. I typically find many of our clients are paying a 1% fee to their broker to have their funds managed. But there's a second fee that many people don't realize. It's called the mutual fund fee. So first, what is a mutual fund? You can invest in individual stocks or bonds in the stock market, but over the years they created mutual funds, which are collections of stocks or bonds. And these collections or groups, these funds, have a common characteristic. It might be the size of the firm that's reflected in the fund. It might be the geographic location, like U.S. firms, Eurasian firms, European firms. It might be based on an industry, the oil industry or the pharmaceutical industry. So there's many types of mutual funds, thousands. And these funds typically charge fees too. The people that run the fund want to get paid because they're picking the stocks and bonds that are in the fund. But their fees are generally hidden. And they're hidden because they're deducted from the earnings before they report earnings. You're paying a fee, you just don't see what's coming out of your actual return. Well, if you add these up, I find that most of our clients typically, an average fee is about 2% a year to have their money managed. So here's my question. How long are you with your broker? A lot of people say, well, I've been with my broker for 10 years. If you do the math on this, this kind of surprises people. 2 times 10, that's a fifth of your money is in somebody else's pocket, either a mutual fund advisor or your financial advisor. That's a lot of money. And so Tara and I look for ways to try to eliminate fees. So let's go back to our chart. Here's the S&P 500 index, and I've added on just a 1% annual fee, not 2%, just 1. So this is kind of the bellwether of how we measure our performance against the stock market. The second thing that we talk to our clients about and are very adamant on is let's avoid market corrections. If you remember back to 2002, 2003, that was a very unpleasant time for a lot of folks that had money in the market. The dot-com meltdown really hurt the economy and hurt the stock market, and people that were retired in that time period really got hammered. Then we had another correction in 2008. Most of us weren't involved in buying and selling or swapping homes or real estate. We definitely, most of us weren't involved in those, what were they called, mortgage-backed securities, where they were packaging up loans and selling them. But people that were in the market got hammered when the real estate bubble burst and real estate values came down. It had a ripple effect. Remember that major companies faltered and fell. GM went through bankruptcy. Enron collapsed. I mean, a lot of bad things happened. And so our focus is let's take market corrections off the table. And the way we do it, I'm going to cover something. This is going to sound complex. You could do this individually, but there are companies that will actually do this for you. So let me show you a simple process to avoid market corrections. Let's say we invest our funds. I've got 100,000 and I invest them in a bond. What is a bond? Well, it's an instrument that pays a fixed rate of return, a fixed interest rate over a period of time. And so I've picked a bond here that pays 2%. So every year on my 100,000, I'm getting a $2,000 return. But I'd kind of like to get a little bit more. So what can I do with that 2,000? Well, I use that interest to buy an option on the market. So what is an option? An option is a contract where you buy the right to purchase the market in the future, but it's not an obligation to purchase the market in the future. So let's say the market's up. Well, then I cash in my option and I credit whatever the gain is. And I'm showing an example here. This is pretty typical. You could buy an option with a 5% cap on growth, which means market's up 2, I get 2. Market's up 4, I get 4. Market's up 6, I only get 5. But in return, what happens if the market is down this year? Well, I rip up my option. I don't exercise it. In that year, I don't make any money, but I don't lose any money. And so this is a way of playing the market where you can participate in upside, but none of the downside. And there's products that actually are built on this model. So let's go back to our chart. Remember the rabbit, he was bouncing around, going up and down over that 20-year period. Well, here's the kind of returns that we've offered to our clients over that same period. In bad years, 2000, 2001, 2, we moved sideways. We didn't make any gains, but we didn't lose any money. During the good years, we clock in this case, I'm showing just a 5% upside. It's all we can get. We actually have products that do much better than this today, but I wanted to be conservative and show you how we apply funds and how we try to outperform the market. So here's the model. Now, this may look like a dead heat, but if I have a choice of taking money out, I want to be high water when I take it out. So I want to introduce one more variable into this discussion. When you retire, you got to start tapping your retirement funds. We have to start taking money out. And there's another variable that we haven't talked about. That's the impact of withdrawing funds when the market is down. I'm going to show you an example of this. Took the same $100,000 investment back in 2000, and let's say I turned 72 that year, and I had to start taking my RMDs, my required distributions. Or let's just say that I wanted to tell my broker, hey, I need $5,000 a year to live on. A lot of people do that. Well, this chart shows the impact of withdrawals over this same time period. Unfortunately, our friend the rabbit doesn't do very well. He actually doesn't even make it to the finish line. He drains his account in around 2017. Whereas the turtle, the tortoise, he's still clocking along. There's still money in the account. Uh, what this shows is that there's actually three factors that affect our money. Management fees, obviously, that takes away from what we earn. Market corrections, some are painful. But very importantly, when you withdraw funds is also critical. The timing of withdrawals to support your lifestyle. We always want to withdraw funds high water. And I'm going to give you an example of this, how to do it. So, is there a product? People say, well, Bill, that all sounds great, but I want a product, okay, that grows when the market grows, doesn't participate in market corrections, and has no management fees. That almost sounds too good to be true. But believe it or not, these products aren't brand new. They date back to the time of the Romans. Uh, in my book, which you're going to get a copy of by listening today, we'll send you a PDF copy. And if after the webinar you'd rather get a written copy so you have a book to hold in your hand and read, I included an addendum in the 2022 version of the book, and it's the good, the bad, and the ugly of a particular financial instrument. The instrument that does all this is a tax-deferred fixed annuity. It grows when the market grows. It avoids market corrections, doesn't go down, and we have products that have absolutely no management fees. So there are products that do exactly this model. And many of them that we're offering today actually outperform that 5% limit, that 5% cap. So happy to show you those if those are of interest. So we've talked about how to eliminate fees and how to avoid market corrections. What about these RMDs, required minimum distributions? First, let's define what an RMD is, and then is there a smarter way to do it? Well, when we turn 72, we have to start taking money out. Up until that age, the government has said, Bill, you can leave your money in your IRA or 401k, but at age 72, you've got to start taking some out. Well, how do they calculate it? There's a chart that shows my age, 72, 73, 74, and next to each age, there's a divisor. And this year, the IRS introduced a new chart, and at age 72, the divisor is 27.4. So what they do is they take the January 1st balance of what's in my account, let's say it's 100,000, and they divide it by an age-based divisor, in this case 27.4. That means I've got to take about 3.6% of my money out. Well, if you look at the chart, you'll notice that the divisor over time gets smaller every year. So what happens when you divide a number by a smaller number? You're taking a larger percentage out. Now, most of us won't make it to 115. The chart actually goes that far. But if you did, the divisor's down to 2, which means you're taking half of whatever's in your IRA or 401k out each year. So over time, the divisor gets smaller. We're forced to take larger and larger distributions. So let's see if there's a smarter way to do RMDs, required minimum distributions. I've got the same amount of money on both sides of the page. Left side, my IRA in the market. Right side, I've divided my IRA up into 2 buckets. I'm going to show you a 50-50 split, but there's no magic to these numbers. So I split it up, and I've got half my money sitting in an IRA annuity. Could be 30% of the money, could be 60%, depends on how much our clients want to put in. And then the rest is just in a traditional IRA. So we've got both sides equally balanced. So what happens? I turn 72 and I have to start doing what I call annual dipping. This is what most people do. They get the calculation from their broker, says, Bill, you got to take X dollars out of your IRA. And so I withdraw those funds. Over time, that annual dipping is going to go up. But what do I do on the right side? I don't dip. I use another feature that comes with modern annuities. You can add on a feature which these came out about 10 years ago, called a lifetime income rider. So what is the income rider? It's a lifetime pension. that you attach to your annuity, and it starts paying out money coming out of the annuity. That amount, that lifetime income amount, is enough to satisfy the RMD amount for both buckets on the right side of the page. So we're taking same amount out. What's going to happen over time? Well, the annual dipping increases on the left side, so my bucket generally is going down. I'm taking a larger and larger percentage out. Likewise, the value of my IRA annuity is going down also. Oh, by the way, that lifetime income stream, with most of the products we write today, it's not a flat lifetime payout. It's an increasing lifetime payout. If the market is up, they bump the amount up. So over time, it keeps up with the total RMD requirement on the right side. Now, since we're only drawing money out of the IRA annuity, the rest of my IRA funds are increasing because I'm not tapping those. Let's fast forward one more step, and into the future, what happens? We get to a point where I'm doing IRA dipping in a very hefty way on the left side. The account value is probably going down. On the right side, I've drained my annuity. But remember, it's a lifetime payout, literally a lifetime payout. It goes as long as you go. It increases until you're up in heaven. And so you get to a point where you drain the IRA annuity, but now you've kind of got your cake and eat it too. You got your bucket, your second bucket of all your IRA funds, and you've got a lifetime pension that you can't outlive that's continuing to grow. And that's what I call free money. They've paid you out everything it's earned in the annuity, plus they've paid out all the principal you put in, and now you're getting free money because it's lifetime. There's even one more good thing that makes this even better. What do we do when that IRA that bucket is almost empty? We go back to the company that created the annuity and say, hey, you know that IRA that I set up 15 years ago? I'd like to convert it now to a Roth. Well, since there's only a modest amount of account value left, we wait till there's only 3 or 4,000 in the annuity. The tax consequence on converting it to a Roth 12 or 15 years from now is minimal. But what do we get now? We get tax-free lifetime income that continues to increase as long as we live. Does this make sense? I mean, to me, I don't understand the notion of annual dipping. If you have to dip when the market is corrected, like it's doing right now, you hurt your IRA. In the case of what's on the right side, we never tap the far right bucket. We let it continue to grow, and we let the IRA annuity satisfy the RMD requirement until the bucket's empty. Then we convert it to tax-free income. This is how Tara and I help people create more guaranteed income in retirement. So let's take a look at a case study. This is a real case. There was a Lucy and a Bill. At the time, they were both 68. We computed an annual budget, and it came out to about $6,000 monthly. I told Bill and Lucy, I said, you got to plan ahead for inflation. So while you're only spending $6 today, you're going to be spending more in the future. Let's factor that amount with 2.5% built-in inflation. Lucy and Bill made some smart Social Security choices. Lucy claimed her benefit at 68. She's getting $1,856. Bill was smart. As the primary breadwinner, he waited till age 70. By the way, if you want to know more about making smart Social Security choices, go back to last week's webinar. It's recorded, and Tara talked about ways to maximize your lifetime payout. But we talked to Bill, and Bill agreed, I'm going to wait till age 70. So he started out with $35.64. Pretty good. The savings-wise, the couple had $725,000 in liquid assets. $675 of that was in Bill's 401k. And we projected that it would grow at a rate of 5% annually. We didn't, there's no way to know if there's ups or downs. There'll be some years that are better and some not so good when the market corrects. But we factored in just a consistent 5% gain. We also assumed that Bill will probably be outlived by Lucy. Ladies tend to outlive us guys. In our practice, we do a lot of long-term care planning. And if you go with me to one of the assisted living homes or a skilled nursing facility, you'll see there's probably 9 or 10 women for every guy. Guys tend to get their care at home, and then ladies, after the guys go to heaven, the ladies tend to need care. Well, they get it in a care facility. So we assumed that Bill would die at age 83. Now, at that point, Lucy would step up to Bill's higher Social Security benefit. So we created a second scenario for the couple, and I said, hey, let's take a chunk of the 401k money. In this case, we took $275,000 and we transferred it into an annuity. That annuity at age 70 started generating 1107 of monthly income. And as I said, it grows over time if the market's up. So it's not a fixed payout, it's an increasing payout, just like our Social Security checks. They're both designed to keep up with inflation. So we have some very, very powerful software. Fortunately, it brings the analysis down to a simple set of pages where you can do comparative analysis. And if you look on this page, the top page shows what happens if Bill passes away at 83. How much money does Lucy have at age 97, 98, 99, 100? And at age 100, with consistent growth, no major market corrections, Lucy's sitting on 345,000. What about the second scenario where we converted some of that money into a tax-deferred annuity? Well, you run the numbers, and once again, our software projects taxes, computes inflation. It takes all the mystery out of this. And what's the comparison? We increased the amount of money that Lucy has at age 100 by 241,000. When you read my book, you'll find that one of our underlying principles in our practice, we want to help families create a safe, secure retirement. And most of our clients come in with money sitting in the market. And I ask them, what do you think? How do you feel? And they go, we're kind of concerned. We remember 2008, we remember 2001 or 2. Those weren't good times. And while I want my money to grow, I don't want to go through another major market correction. It's just too unsettling. And so we show our clients a way to park some of their money to create the income they need to support their lifestyle and not worry about the stock market. In this case, Bill and Lucy could leave the rest of their money in the market and know that between Social Security and the annuity, their lifestyle was built in and was going to continue to be built in, and they didn't have to tap those funds when they were down. Well, I want to add on another factor to this discussion, one that we haven't talked about yet, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this topic several weeks from now on long-term care. If you've tracked with us, you know that Tara and I worry about two things, about market corrections and having enough income. That's important. But the biggest risk all of us face, bar none, is paying for long-term care. Why is that? Because care facilities are labor intensive and the cost of care keeps going up. Today, the average cost of a nursing home in Texas, probably 6, 7, could be 8 or 9,000 already, depending on whether you have a semi-private or a private room. But we did this analysis and we threw in one more ingredient to our market, to our software, and said, what if Bill, before he passes away at age 83, what if he spends 3 years in a nursing home? What's the impact on Lucy and Bill? And you can see that our model shows that we expect Bill would be paying somewhere between 11 and 12,000 monthly to pay for his long-term care. That's a lot of money. So how does that affect the model? Well, now Lucy runs out of money at age 93. And if you look, you'll see that her go-forward income at that point is $5,600, $5,600. Well, how does the annuity help out? Well, one of the factors is most of the annuities we write today also have another benefit. That income stream that I talked about, if the income is coming out and you need long-term care, many of the policies will double the payout for up to 5 years. Well, let's look what that does to the model. It reduces that expenditure down from 11,000 down to 7 or 8,000. That's saving Lucy and Bill some money. And if you look at the bottom line, yes, we've increased Lucy's financial life expectancy 2 years to age 95. But here's the kicker. This is one that people really like. What's the go forward income Lucy has in that bottom right circle? It's 9,600. So comparing the two models, yes, Lucy's out of money at 95, but she has an extra $4,000 a month to spend on her lifestyle. I don't know about you. If I'm going to go broke or I'm going to drain my savings, I'd sure like to have more guaranteed income coming in to support the quality of my lifestyle. And that's what this annuity has delivered for Bill and for Lucy. So let's go back to that chart we had. Remember, we talked about original pensions that our employers offered. There was kind of a win lose. Live short, your employer won. Live long, you win. And then we had 401ks where you live short, your heirs inherit money. They're happy about that. You live long, maybe you outlive your money. Let's add on a third dimension here, and that's looking at an annuity plus an income rider. And here I think we have something that's really neat. We have a win win. Once again, we fund the annuity, we die early, and our heirs inherit what's in the bucket. The insurance company doesn't get to keep it. So the heirs win. But what if you outlive your bucket of money, the annuity? You win. You not only get free money, but if you funded it with pre tax dollars, IRA dollars, guess what? Now you're getting tax free money when the bucket's empty. I like win win scenarios. These are the kinds of models that Tara and I build for our clients. We take a portion of their savings, put it into something that won't correct, that avoids fees, and more importantly, will generate an income stream that you can't outlive, one that grows over time, one that can eventually become tax free if you drain the account. So these are the kinds of models we build, and this allows our clients to spend more in retirement and have comfort and peace of mind that they won't outlive their money. One last thought on this. When I wrote our book, our initial version of our book back in 2020, I had a chapter in there on beating the market and on the power of income. And I wondered, our models show that people with more guaranteed income do better in retirement financially. But I wanted to do some research to see if anybody else was telling this story. What I found was there's a whole groundswell of financial advisors that have gotten on the income bandwagon. I'll tell you where you'll see this. You'll see it in the financial ads that appear on TV today. You go back 5 years ago and watch an ad from one of these brokerage houses, and all they talked about was asset growth. Today, the income words got a lot more popular. Today, they talk about you've saved your money for retirement. Now, how do you draw down against it so that you don't outlive it? These brokerage companies are starting to realize people want income, that it gives them peace of mind. And I found a study that was done by the Principal Financial Group, big institution, back several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And what it showed, they hired 2 PhDs from the American College, Michael Finke and Wade Pfau. And these guys did 10,000 Monte Carlo simulations, analyzing the impact. Their whole study was, what's the impact of income on people in retirement? Well, when they got to the end, they had 2 findings. The first one I already knew. People with more income, guaranteed income, have better financial outcomes. But their report then delved into the emotional impact of having more income in retirement. And what they wrote it was really important. It said people that have more guaranteed income have more confidence that they can spend in retirement and know that they're not going to outlive their savings. They're more confident that they're going to leave money as a legacy to their kids. And I thought that was really profound. It's not only financially you're going to do better, but emotionally. And that's important because we live in a high stress world where we all worry about a lot of things. And to know that our money is safe takes one of those important anxiety causing factors off the table. So, this is how we approach retirement planning, and we're always happy to help. So, if you want to know how to have options on how to safely grow and protect your retirement plans, give us a call. Tara and I are always here to answer questions. Our consultations always free. As you'll see in the list of webinars we're putting on, and if you get a copy of our book and just look at the table of contents, you'll know that Tara and I deal with many, many issues that you and I are going to face in retirement. Some are financial, some are emotional, some are legal. But we have a whole lot of ideas in there in how to create that safe, secure retirement where you don't have to worry about what's coming next. So, Tara, with that, what are we talking about next week? Do you remember?
Next week is Medicare choices, how to make smart Medicare choices for healthcare and retirement when you're over 65.
Well, that's very important.
Yeah.
We've got some great solutions, and I'm 73. I have a Medicare combination that makes me feel comfortable when I go doctor, lab, and hospital. I have no copays, no deductibles, and I can go to virtually all the doctors, all the hospitals, all the clinics, all the labs.
Yep.
So tune in next week for that. Tara, do we have any questions this week?
Yeah, and if anybody wants to ask a question, there's a talk bubble at the top of your screen, and you can just click on that and type in your question. If you can't think of a question on the fly, of course, you can always email us at Tara@srctexas.com or Bill@srctexas.com, and we're happy to answer those questions. So let me see if there's any questions. Okay. So one question was asked is, are there any tax issues moving my IRA to an annuity?
That's a good question. And the answer is no. This is a tax-free transfer. When Tara and I build solutions, we are very concerned about taxes. We've got an upcoming webinar that's going to talk about how taxes are going to increase in 2026, maybe sooner, depending on what the federal government does. And so taxes are always an issue. We want to be tax efficient, and we'll show you ways to pay less income tax, ways to convert IRAs over to Roth IRAs where they become tax-free. There's a lot of great strategies available. You just need to know how to deal with it legally to pay less to Uncle Sam.
All right. Another question is, if I wanted to get your book, can I get a hard copy?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to send everybody a PDF of the book just for listening in today. But just drop us an email, bill@srctexas.com, Tara@srctexas.com. Just say, hey, I'd rather get a printed copy of the book. We're not going to call you. You have to call us. We're a referral-based practice. We like people calling us. We don't chase people or call you. So we want you to feel comfortable coming in, and happy to always answer your questions and happy to send you a free copy of the book.
Okay. Another question is, if the market goes up 9%, are you saying the net is 7% with fees on average?
Well, no. Let's talk a little bit about the kinds of investment options that exist within annuities today. If you go back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, pretty much the only index where you could park money for growth was the Dow Jones or the S&P. Today, most annuities offer a range of what are called volatility controlled indexes. And these are managed funds where smart guys on Wall Street are looking for opportunities to grow money. And they target a 5% annual return. We have products today that have averaged 6, 7, some 8% over the last 10 years. 8% average growth. That's a nice growth. So within each of those indexes, there's either a cap on growth or a participation rate. But what this says is if market's up 9%, maybe the cap is 7, maybe the cap is 6. But we look for products that have upside market potential, but avoid fees, because fees erode what you get to keep. So if the market's up 7 or market's up 9, you might get 9. If you're in a no-fee product, you might get everything that's coming up. So, Tara, any more questions?
No, that's it. So I think we'll close out. If you have any questions or want a consultation, our consultation is always free. Just give us a call or shoot us an email. And we thank you so much for participating.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.